You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
To the latest edition of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. And I think this is a historic episode. I think this is our first sans Sam Dykstra episode. I could be entirely wrong on that. Maybe we did one before, but my name is Tyler Mon, joined by Benjamin Hill from New York City. Have we ever had one without the dulcet tones of Sam Dykstra?
I'm trying to think, there's been so many episodes. I feel like this must have happened at some point.
Yeah, at some point. It's always off like gallivanting around like, oh, Sam's in Scotland now over the off season, whatever. Like he's got a cool life. I feel like at some point we had to have done it when he was absent. The Absent podcast, creator / host.
I mean, his life, we can't, Sam lives a life that most of us can only envy. And when he's doing these things and having these great experiences all over the globe that, most of us can only dream about, sometimes it leaves the lesser folks such as us to pick up the slack, but that's okay. We all aspire to be Sam Dykstra in our own way. And we certainly miss him on this episode. And yet we will soldier through, perhaps not even just soldier through, but, thrive, elevate, transcend, reach new heights
without the dead weight of Sam Dykstra dragging us down. Kidding, Sam, we love you. It's a different feel episode for this week's edition of the Show Before the Show, but we still got a ton coming up for you, as thanks as always to all of you for tuning in. I feel like the last 6 months or so I have heard so much more often. I think I mentioned this on an episode last week, 2 weeks ago, but so much more often from people like, oh man, I listen to the Show Before the Show every week, you and Ben and Sam, and Ghost of the Minors is great and blah, blah, blah. It just, for whatever reason, it feels like people are, they've been tuned in for a while, obviously, but they are very actively telling us that they enjoy the show. And that's pretty cool. I'm never going to not be excited about getting your compliments. I have very weak self-esteem. It's very nice for me.
You and me both, Tyler. I love it. Keep the compliments coming.
Yeah.
I always appreciate hearing from listeners. That's something that I've mentioned before, but that I picked up on over the last couple of years visiting ballparks. For years it was like, the blogger, I read your blog. And now, of course, the blog doesn't exist, but I will always be identified in the mind of the minor league baseball fan as the blogger, which is fine. But in recent years, more and more, it's been like, oh yeah, I started reading your stuff after the podcast, or I listen to the podcast every week. And we really do appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
And as I said, Tyler and I both have really weak self-esteem, actually.
So it is true.
We're working on it, separately. These are separate.
It's a constant process.
Yeah. But please feel free to boost it at any point.
Yeah, always. Any time that you would like to send along kind words, Ben and I will never turn them down. But no, it is really cool getting a chance to hear from so many people who have tuned into the show and enjoy the show. You can always get in touch with the show, podcast at MiLB.com. Let us know your questions, the burning things you would like to know about here in this 2021-22 off season. And speaking of the off season, there is a little form of familiarity in this offseason here in 2021 as the winter meetings are underway in Orlando, Florida this week. And that is something that we did not get to say in 2020. There is a very important thing to note about the winter meetings, which is something that we have discussed every time we have discussed the winter meetings. Historically, traditionally, and always a minor league baseball event. Obviously, the winter meetings in recent years have become the transaction show on the major league side. And of course, right now with the lockout currently underway in Major League Baseball, not any transactions happening, but that kind of returns the winter meetings to the roots of what they were always designed to be. And this year, a little different in the fact that there is no major league aspect to them. but still certainly a ton of stuff going on the minor league side. Ben, you've attended more winter meetings than the rest of us probably combined on the staff, and you have been somebody who's gotten to see it grow and change and evolve over the years. Give us kind of some of your winter meetings memories from, when you first went down to then becoming Ben's Biz, being somebody who got to present awards and, give talks and all of that. What have the winter meetings meant to you?
Yeah, it is a really important event, as you said, especially from the minor league baseball side. This year's is quite a bit different, and two minor league centric aspects of it are not happening at this year's the job seeker fair, the PBEO job fair, and also the trade show, which is something I wish the public could have access to, because it's just a giant room filled with like all of your baseball needs in one place, and really eye-opening when you think about all the goods and services and products that, and you can book touring acts and everything, but everything that it takes to run a baseball team under one roof, it really helps to illuminate how many choices have to be made on a purchasing level year after year. But for me, the winter meetings, I started this job in 2005. I mean, just part-time, night shift, hourly, and my niche, what I now call the business and culture of minor league baseball, that grew incidentally, first with the blog and writing about promotions. But long story short, I started to feel like I have to get to a winter meetings because I'm getting to know all these people through email and phone calls, and I'm covering the industry in a way that had never really been done before. And this is just really important for me to show my face and, prove to people I'm, real, essentially. As I was developing this career that didn't really have a specific precedent, and, I was already, about 30 years old, and, needed this to hit, if I could really justify continuing to live in New York City. I was, not to get into my whole personal situation at the time, but, I was in a transitional place and really starting to feel like I didn't know, what was going to work for me, my long-term viability living in New York City, if baseball writing was going to be a thing. So the winter meetings wasn't the only important step in that, but it felt really overly important for me to be there. In 2007, I was still part-time, so I wasn't officially, going with company backing, but a coworker, had a hotel room and said, hey, you can crash with me if you just make it on your own. And I just made the arrangements on my own and had no clue what I was doing or how it all worked, but it was so important for me. That was 2007 in Nashville at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel. And just being like, wow, this is the biggest hotel I've ever been in. And it's very easy to get lost in that hotel. I went to 3 or 4 more winter meetings in Nashville. And I remember back then I was younger, a little more raw, more contrarian. I remember then being upset, like, we're in this cool city like Nashville, and we all just spend all this time in a hotel. And when there's events outside the hotel, they're in these big, like, not soulless, but, tourist-centric, oversized places that don't give a sense of, the character, community. And I was really negative. But then as the years went by and just really appreciating the scale of the event, I thought, well, of course, there's only a few places really in the country that could handle the winter meetings at full swing, as it had been during those years, with so many people from, all of minor league baseball, 160 teams at that time, people from all throughout Major League Baseball, the trade show, the job fair, just the amount of space, the endless league meetings and business seminars, just so to have all these ballrooms and conference rooms and huge forums to have things like the trade show. You need something large and maybe a little impersonal. And I started to just appreciate the sheer logistics and the reality behind scheduling and staging that event. So always really important for me. 2008, I went again, kind of in an unofficial part-time status in Las Vegas. And then 2009 was my first entirely legit, finally got full-time winter meetings. And that was in Indianapolis, the first and I think only time that the winter meetings were in Indianapolis. But that was a really special winter meetings for me because I'd finally, made this into what I could now legitimately call a career. And the winter meetings be at the end of the event or at the end of the year, when I felt really finally like I was finding a true foothold with this career. I remember just having just feeling really good about myself during those winter meetings. I remember I had my Discman with me, and I remember walking through the cold in this like springtime jacket. I hadn't even brought a winter jacket to the event, and I was listening to a AC/DC mix CD my friend gave me, and I was walking through Indianapolis in the snow in a very light jacket, blasting "It's a Long Way to the Top" if you want to rock and roll, and having a little moment to myself one night in Indianapolis, like, yeah, man, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, but you're getting there, buddy. You're getting there. So the winter meetings, it does. That it's the end of the year in the entire industry, it does take on an outsized, importance, just since the only chance you really get to see all these people. And then, like a lot of things, at first it was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to the winter meetings. And then as the years went by, it became more of a routine. Like, oh, the winter meetings. Oh, we're back in Orlando. Oh, it's in Dallas this time. San Diego got thrown in the mix. So always great to go to those locales and, explore where I could with the limited time. And, there was a real rhythm to it all those years, with the trade show, with the job fair, with the business seminars, with the, speeches that were kind of a state of the industry, kind of like presidential address from then minor league baseball President Pat O'Connor. There was a real rhythm to him through the years, and then bam, COVID, no winter meetings in 2020, and then bam, reorganization of minor league baseball. Now, under the more direct control of Major League Baseball, 120 teams, and then with the lockout this year as well. Definitely a different sort of event, but I think it's great that it's still happening. And I was hoping to go, but still being on parental leave and being in dad mode, it was just a little tough to pull off this time around. So that was a kind of long and rambling and perhaps overly personal summation of the winter meetings and what they are and what they've meant to me.
Well, this time around, we are going to head to the winter meetings in a virtual sense. Kelsie Heneghan will join us. She's down there this year covering the event. What have you heard from kind of people around the industry as far as it's so different this year, but it kind of just gets to be turned back into, the things that it originally was as a minor league baseball event? Have you heard from people about what it feels like this year, especially without the major league component and the first, COVID era winter meetings of the world?
Yeah, so abnormal in a lot of ways, but at the same time, winter meetings have been held at the Swan and Dolphin, on Walt Disney World property in Orlando, Florida. So people who have been in the industry for a little while have, been to winter meetings there in the past. The hallways and the ballrooms and the grounds around the hotel are kind of a familiar environment. So I think that's the sense I've been getting from the couple people I've talked to or interacted with online, is that as much as that's sort of, to revert to cliche, the more things change, the more they stay the same type of feeling that after all this, we're back in a familiar location, seeing still a lot of the same people who are, in the industry and, finding their way forward and being chances to get together again with, a little bit of a new context in a lot of ways, but it's a great place to see people in a familiar environment. And, as with minor league baseball, lots of movement in that industry as people build their career going from one team to another. So people know each other from, stints with other teams and, have a real chance to reconnect. And I think that's an important thing.
So that's where we're going to head, to the winter meetings in Orlando, Florida. Kelsie Heneghan joins the show next.
Here on the Show Before the Show podcast.
We all have that dream trip we've been wishing we could go on, but too often life, or usually price, gets in the way. That's why Priceline is here to help you turn your dream trip into reality. With up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights, you can book everything you need for your next adventure. Don't just dream about that next trip. Book it with Priceline. Download the Priceline app or visit Priceline.com and book your next trip today.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Tyler Maughan and I, Ben Hill, are joined by someone who is actually attending the baseball winter meetings, I believe just about getting ready to fly back home to New York City, but on the ground in Orlando, our very own Kelsie Heneghan. Kelsie, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice and sunny here in Orlando, so that is nice.
Yeah, and this is your very first winter meetings?
Yes, it's my first one, so I don't really have anything to compare it to, but I've heard it's very different than all the normal or past winter meetings.
Well, yeah, this is your new normal now. And, since you're the only one there, at least among the three people on this Zoom screen right now, we want to know how it went. But to start, tell us, for those who might not know, you're a very, familiar face to MiLB.com readers, do a lot of the social media. But tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, just so people who somehow don't know you will have a little sense of who Kelsie is.
I've been at MiLB.com since 2013. Started off as a reporter and a writer, and then I switched over to focus more on social media in 2016. And so I mostly focus on social media for MiLB, and then now I also help with the social media for MLB Pipeline. But because I started out with the reporting editorial side, I still write some stories here and there. So at the winter meetings this year is a good mix of posting, but also doing interviews and writing a story.
Excellent. And no stranger to the Show Before the Show podcast either, for the long-time listeners.
Oh, yeah.
But Orlando, the baseball winter meetings. As Tyler and I talked about at the top of the show, a very different event this year, this time around. Tell us what your experience has been, how it's organized, the type of events you've been attending, highlights. We'll leave the floor open to you to talk about the winter meetings in the year 2021.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I guess I didn't know what to expect. I knew that there wasn't a major portion. I knew that there wasn't going to be the trade show and the job fair, which are the biggest events that people talk about. But it was really more of a seminar and just a way for people to present new ideas for minor league baseball, for minor league GMs and owners to get together and kind of talk over their shared experiences and their collective knowledge about how to run minor league teams. So that was really interesting. It started off with an awards show, and one of the things that Kurt Hunziker, who's the VP of minor league baseball ops, one of the things that he wanted to do was talk to teams and say, what do you like about the winter meetings? What do you not like about the winter meetings? And a lot of them said to get rid of the gala. And so instead, in a way to still do the golden bobbleheads, to still do these awards that focus on front offices and promotions and reward minor league teams for their successes, they did an award show that Kurt likes to describe as SB style. But it was very relaxed. People were in jeans. You brought your beer on stage to either present the award or receive the award. It was very much like a relaxed, casual, but still a good environment to get to know people. The tables weren't set up like big round circles like at a wedding. It was more bar stools and smaller tables and cocktail type of situation. So that was a lot of fun. And just the winter meetings in general was cool because minor league teams and employees have so much apparel with their logo on it. So you always could see where someone worked. You didn't have to be staring at their credential to see where they're from. You could just look at their shirt, and it's just such a cool collection of people that you've always, either heard their names or see them on Twitter or maybe do a phone interview, but now they're actually all in the same room.
Kelsie, this season, we've heard from so many front office staff members around minor league baseball that the 2021 season kind of felt like a dress rehearsal for 2022, getting back into operations and promotions and game day entertainment and all of that after missing the season entirely in 2020. What has the sentiment sort of been like from all these people who are gathered for the first time in a couple of years, looking forward to a season next year that hopefully is normal or as close to the old normal as we're going to get, and coming out of a season that I know was kind of exhausting, but also felt exhilarating for people being able to be back in ballparks?
Yeah, I mean, that's the sense everyone shared, was that it was a rush. It was, an intense season that didn't start till May, and it went into October for the first time for many teams. But they're happy it happened, and they were happy to have fans. And now they're just excited that next year they'll actually be able to have full capacity all year round. Like you said, this year we called it as year zero. And so October 4th, the day after the season was over, was when year one began, because all the prep has already begun. The winter meetings is the unofficial transition from reviewing the past season to preparing for the next season. So they're already talking about promotions. They're already talking about new initiatives. I know a couple months ago, we announced the Marvel Defenders of the Diamond initiative, which has, I think, 96 or 98 teams having a new promotion with Marvel and being able to promote that. So they talked a lot about that. I talked at a social media seminar about how teams can, further continue their brand storytelling on social media. So yeah, it's definitely next year we get to fully do it, especially, these teams signed 10-year relationships or agreements with their new affiliates. So, they're going to start being able to do more things like, hey, all of the Cubs prospects, let's get on a conference call. Let's see what we're doing. Or Cubs affiliates, I should say. And so it's pretty exciting that they are really getting into that groove.
That is one difference in 2021, especially compared to seasons past. It used to be, 3-year player development contracts, and some years, I think, even 2-year player development contracts. To be now in a circumstance where there is so much stability for minor league baseball teams going forward with their parent clubs, with their affiliations, with their fellow minor league family members, how has that changed the way that teams do things? Like you said, you can get a whole organization together now knowing, okay, from now through 2029, we're all going to be on the same page, pulling on the same end of the rope for the same organization. How has that changed things versus what you've heard from people in years past?
I think that you can buy in a little more to the organization. Like Beloit's rebrand recently, they're using a lot of the Marlins colors. I think that, that has always been something that teams do, but I think that there was always a little trepidation if they were just going to change affiliates in 2 years or 5 years. And now they have that, they can really buy into the family, into the brand. And yeah, we talked about, or I know you guys talked about before about minor leaguers getting housing. And that's something that they can really work with their parent club to get that housing situation situated. And stuff like that of just kind of making the facilities better. Like I said, they're working with their parent clubs more than they ever have.
Well, Kelsie, this year's Winter Meetings is obviously a much smaller event than years past, entirely minor league baseball centric, but you're still in Orlando, still on the Disney World grounds, still just a really unique event in terms of, the people from the industry that you run into, as well as just the larger surroundings. What has it been like being in Orlando, and just what the event is like, aesthetically speaking?
Yeah, it's pretty cool being in Orlando, being on Disney property. I grew up in Central Florida, just an hour south in Melbourne. So I very much am a Disney kid. I was joking the other day that I never really was a Disney fanatic because I was able to take it for granted, which sounds kind of obnoxious, but I grew up in Central Florida by Disney World and then moved to Southern California with Disneyland. So it's just always been there. So except for now that I live in New York. So it was nice to have that familiar touch of places that I would go to as a kid, and now seeing it as an adult and seeing it in a work environment. So just having that vibe. And then just the Winter Meetings in general was just such a fun experience. I know that it, is still a couple hundred people, but it felt intimate. I would still see the same people walking down the halls. If I interviewed someone and then the next day I would see them. And so that was pretty cool to kind of get a familiarity with these people, because you're in, this certain set of conference rooms and a lobby bar and just walking between the two all the time.
And during your stay in Orlando, you talked to, of course, a lot of people around the industry, some of whom you interviewed. And we've got an interview with that you did coming up shortly. So if you could set that up for us, and that'll be the next segment on the show before the show.
Yeah, I talked to Kennedy Schull of the Eugene Emerald. She's the director of tickets. This was her first year, and she won the award for Future Star, which is for minor league baseball employees, team employees that are ages 25 or younger. So it was really interesting to get her take on being a part of such a, historic industry that has kind of been around for so long, and it very easily could be the same departments that it always has been, but there's definitely been a push for diversity and for new creative ideas. Minor league baseball in general always is coming up with creative new ideas. So it's interesting talking to someone who is bringing that young ideas.
Well, that interview is coming up next. And in the meantime, Kelsie, thanks for joining us, and safe travels back from Orlando, assuming you have decided not to just set up permanent residency in Disney World.
No, I don't think I could afford that, but that would be nice. Thank you for having me.
Eczema is unpredictable, but you can flare less with Ebglyss, a once-monthly treatment for moderate to severe eczema. After an initial 4-month or longer dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Hey everyone, it's Kelsie Heneghan with MiLB.com, and I'm here with Eugene Emerald's ticket director, Kennedy Schull. And we are here at the winter meeting. So first of all, just what's this winter meeting's been like for you so far?
Yeah, it's really been interesting. I had heard a lot of stories from my coworkers who had been in the past, and I didn't really know what was going to be coming into it. Obviously, right before there was news that like the MLB side was canceled, but to me, it's just like the first time, so it's all pretty new and exciting, and it's been great. You know, people are really positive and so willing to like want to connect and want to help. So, been loving learning at all the seminars and then connecting afterwards. And again, everybody's just so open to wanting to help you on your path. So
yeah, definitely. I know your week got started in a very exciting way, being named the Future Star Award winner, which for those who don't know, it's for employees 25 years or younger. So what was that like when you heard your name get called?
It was it's hard to explain. You know, kind of incredible, exciting, scary all at the same time. It was definitely, I'll be honest, I did really want to win when we submitted. I had worked really, really hard, and I was excited about it, and I was proud of it. And so hearing my name called, it was kind of one of those perfect end stones to the whole journey that had happened the past year. And then I was also just really nervous because I was sitting in the back of the room and I was like, don't trip on the way up to the stage.
I don't think you did, right?
No, I did not.
That's good. Now, I think I noticed that the last few winners of this award are all female. What do you think that says about the industry, that all these future stars are women?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a growing trend of women seeing that they can enter sports and that they can achieve things in sports, which hasn't always been the case. You know, we've had a lot of great examples and role models starting to pop up in like these really high levels, which is incredible. And it just kind of gives, you know, younger women like myself, or even younger women who are in high school or college, kind of the even idea that this is possible for them. And when you give women the opportunity, you know, they're gonna do great things with it.
Yeah, definitely. Now I know that you're the director of tickets. What does that mean? What's a day like for you?
Well, as many people know, there is no like one typical day in minor league baseball, but I handle all of the ticket operations. I manage the sales staff for ticket sales for like season tickets, mini plans, and group outings. And I make sales myself. I also have kind of a passion for kind of like data and business intelligence. Not that I have any formal training in it, but I do like to spend time, you know, digging into our team's data, looking at what we can do better, what we can do with it, and trying to teach myself things that can make it easier for me to analyze that data.
Is there any data points that especially stuck out recently for you?
I mean, more so just how much untapped data that we have. You know, if you just take a little time to look through, you know, your ticket system where your single game purchasers are, you can find so many people that have been attending so many games that we've never called or that have never had a ticket plan, and it's a great opportunity to give them a call and just say, hey, you know, try and save some money, join the Emeralds family, try, you know, a 5-game mini plan or any game, you know, things like that.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I also saw on your bio, you're the conscious monitor of the office. What does that mean?
I'm, from a younger generation. I'm very passionate about women in sports. And so minor league baseball can sometimes make jokes. Yeah. And so generally I'm the one who reminds them of, the politically correct thing to do.
It's a very important job. So
yes.
It's good that you have that too.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. They're great. But we're all learning as we go, and that's kind of, we engage in those conversations in the office, and so sometimes they ask me just from my experience.
Yeah, that's great. And then obviously this season was pretty crazy for many reasons. I know it's your first year too. What was it like for you?
It was crazy. Definitely the word to put it. You had no idea what to expect going into it or coming out of it. Kind of a testament to the pandemic with everything changing all the time. Personally, I had no experience in ticket ops going into it, so I had to teach myself ticket ops and to be a director of tickets while managing the pandemic. So it was pretty difficult. It was a pretty big toll, mentally, and with the stress, just trying to keep everything together as COVID guidelines were constantly changing. And but in the end, everything kind of worked itself out, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, that's great. And I know obviously Eugene moved up to high A this year. Did you notice any differences with that?
Yeah. That's more so what I've heard from my coworkers. In the past, I had just been an intern, and I spent most of my time in the box office, so I didn't really go into the ballpark much. But they said, we had the first time that they were kind of practicing, and we were, kind of watching from afar, and there was just a noticeable difference in the skill and the ability, and this is gonna be a good year. Yeah. So,
well, I'm sure even just May baseball in Oregon. What's that like?
Yeah, well, we never quite got the true experience because the season was kind of pushed back, and then we were at a very, very reduced capacity. So there's baseball, but it was mostly just kind of the players playing, and then we could have some fans in the ballpark. It'll definitely be interesting this upcoming season. We have 3 homestands in May, so it'll be tight. Something that we're learning, but something that we're excited to kind of take the challenge on to bring baseball in the spring to our fans.
Yeah, definitely. Was there a moment, though, where it did start to feel normal this season?
Yeah, I think it had to have been sometime in June or July, and I think it was our Grateful Dead night. And as some people may know, Grateful Dead is very big in the Eugene community. And we had one of our largest crowds out for that summer. And it's just kind of that energy when people are filling the concourse, as a staff member, when you can barely walk through the concourse, it's a full ballpark, everybody's laughing and enjoying, and there's a different tone to the air that you're okay, this is it. This is baseball. This is summer.
That makes sense. Did you grow up going to minor league games?
I went to a few, yeah. I grew up in Eugene, so the Eugene Emeralds are my hometown team. I was very young when they were at Civic, so I vaguely remember attending a game there, and then I went to a couple when I was older at PK. So yeah, I played softball growing up, so I spent most of my summers playing softball rather than watching.
Yeah, that is still pretty cool though that you're now a part of the team you watched.
Yeah, no, it's definitely there's a lot of really cool kind of full circle moments that happen in life, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, I think that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to
add? The only thing I would say is, I'm honored to receive this award, but I also want to acknowledge that there was a privilege that I had to be able to work for the Emeralds without getting paid, like a lot of people could not do during the pandemic. So it's something I'm very aware of, that, this was achieved in part because, I had a certain level of privilege to be able to do this that a lot of people couldn't, that, are still doing great and amazing things out there.
Yeah, well, that's great that you're able to recognize that and say that out loud. Yeah. And again, more of the conscious monitor. We need that. Yeah. More women in minor league baseball. So Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Class dismissed.
This class again?
Don't sit in courses you've already taken. University of Phoenix accepts eligible transfer credits and has a scholarship for transfer students. Finish your degree faster.
We
interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One was a real-life oddity. The others are the imaginings of an oddball. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A, the Benton Harbor Orange Wires. B, the Pine Point Goose Gunners. C, the Fort Walton Beach Jets. Although their name seems no less a random assortment of nouns than A or B, C, the Fort Walton Beach Jets, took off in the Class D Alabama-Florida League from 1953 to 1962. Lest you take them for the Beach Jets of Fort Walton, the club was in fact the Jets of Fort Walton Beach, a Florida panhandle fishing village about an hour by automobile from today's Pensacola Blue Wahoos. Changing its name from Camp Walton to Fort Walton in the 1930s, the town took on its ultimate form by adding beach to the moniker midway into the Jets' first season. Still, the Fort Walton Beach minor league baseball gang might easily have been Sharks rather than Jets, if not for nearby Elgin Air Force Base and Hurlburt Airfield. As it was, the Jets played with a certain propulsion, with Fort Walton Beach coasting to the semifinals in 54 and 55, the finals in 56, and the semis again in 57. A Reds affiliate in 54 and 55, the Jets got high-octane pitching out of Dizzy Higginbottom, while Dick Hicks teed off for 80 extra base hits over those two seasons. Although they were a Washington Senators affiliate from 56 to 1960, not even unforgettable infielder Modesto Zarza could make the Jets soar as they should in those years. As a Twins affiliate for the next two seasons, the Jets never really got off the ground. Attendance was also flying low, with Jets fans never exactly threatening to break the sound barrier. Ultimately, the Alabama-Florida League died the death it deserved after the 62 season, as circuit officials continued to resist integration, and, per the United Press, major league clubs refused to support such a policy. And that's how the Jets crash-landed. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these animal parties played in the minors of yore? A, the Apache Junction Doglegs. B, the Hamilton Pigtails. C, the Portland Webfoots. Want to know the answer? Consult your local zoologist. Or tune into the next Ghosts of the Miners. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is having a new phonograph delivered, and he needs me to keep a record.
Final segment on this week's episode of the show. Before the show, big thanks to Kelsie Heneghan and Josh Jackson for all of their work. This was an entertaining Ghost of the Miners this week. It was one that I know Josh was not fully expecting the full historical breadth of that team when he started his research, which is what's so fascinating and cool about Ghosts sometimes, that it turns up unexpected and, sometimes storylines that are not the most glamorous, like teams that had to be shut down for refusing to integrate, but fascinating stuff from the history of minor league baseball. And we are just about set to wrap up this week's episode. But before we do, we're talking about the history of minor league baseball. Now we're talking a little bit about the future of minor league baseball, with the news this week that nearly double figures in minor league baseball teams have new ownership, as there is a kind of sea change in the model of ownership in minor league baseball going forward that had been somewhat rumored earlier on in the fall this year, and now is kind of coming to fruition. Ben, I'm going to let you explain this story because you kind of get the intricacies better than I do. But Endeavor, Diamond Baseball Holdings, 9 teams changing hands ownership wise. Give us the lowdown.
Yeah, this is a story that has come out, very recently. As Tyler mentioned, had been rumored for a long time, and it's still one that I don't know as much about as I'd like, and certainly one we are going to return to in the near future. But for now, I just want to give an overview of it, that Endeavor, a global sports and entertainment company, has started a company or an umbrella organization underneath Endeavor. They've started Diamond Baseball Holdings. And Diamond Baseball Holdings has acquired 9 minor league teams. The Iowa Cubs, the Memphis Redbirds, the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders, the Hudson Valley Renegades, the San Jose Giants, and then pending, some formal approvals, every team in the Atlanta Braves system, the Gwinnett Stripers, Mississippi Braves, Rome Braves, and Augusta Green Jackets. And there will probably be more to come on that front. And, a company buying this many teams, at one time is certainly not something that's ever happened, during the time I've covered minor league baseball. Some of the rules have been changed to allow a company to, own this many teams. There used to be some restrictions in the past, including that the same ownership group cannot own 2 teams in one league, and that is no longer the case right there. So still, kind of developing with this, still in the early stages, but we are looking at Diamond Baseball Holdings, being obviously a major player in the world of minor league baseball. I'm sure there will be a lot of things they can do to streamline the organizations in terms of, implementing, certain initiatives across every team in the ownership group and things like that. A lot still to come, a lot to be determined. As I said, a lot more that, I need to learn about this personally, but, one to acknowledge that is now the case, that Diamond Baseball Holdings now has these teams in their portfolio, adding more, and there'll definitely be something that shapes the industry to no insignificant degree in the future, once they really get up and running in terms of implementing their initiatives and their style of management throughout the industry.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff that we will obviously stay on as the offseason continues to progress across minor league baseball and we head toward the 2022 campaign. And that'll do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. For our absentee creator and host, Sam Dykstra, and for Benjamin Hill, my name is Tyler Mon. We'll talk to you next week.